like to offer some perspective on perhaps what's happening in this time in the field. And also, I'd like to offer some self-care tips that you may or may not care to adopt at this time. These are some tips that I find really useful for when I'm in tumultuous spaces. So grab your cup of tea, create a sacred space. If you're driving, I'll just take a sip. If you're driving, you probably can't create a sacred space. I'm just going to light some incense because I like to smell incense while I'm contemplating. Something about back in the old days when I was part of an ashram, and that whole feeling around that sacredness just puts me into a different space. You might not like it, you might just like some essential oils. So what's going on at the moment? So let me just offer some of my perspectives. This is just what I'm seeing and sensing in the field. And I'm very, very aware of what we get fed through the media and what we get fed through those kind of channels. And one of the things I'm always aware of is that perhaps what I'm seeing happening in the world for me is very different to what's in the media. And the media is offering a perspective that often is fabricated. So be aware of that. And one of the things that I find brings me back to a place of balance and sanity, because at the end of the day, what we want to do is find our peace. We want to be able to connect with that place of peace within us. And if you're constantly allowing the external world to feed you a reality that perhaps doesn't align with what your reality is or what your existence is, it creates a lot of distortion. So it's very important to, if you find yourself being caught up in the waves of your own fear around what's been triggered through the media, that perhaps it's probably a good idea to do what you feel might be common sense. For me personally, I just don't watch the news. I really don't. I don't miss out on anything. I haven't watched the news for years. It just doesn't add value to my life. I honestly don't miss out on anything, because anything worth my attention, I will look up, I will speak to people, I will research, and I will find information that perhaps isn't sensationalized or fabricated. Anyhow, so it's really not about ignoring what's going on in the world, because we as a collective are going to sense all this stuff in the field anyway. There's going to be a sense of unrest. Like, we don't necessarily have to be constantly focusing on something. In fact, I find that takes us down to levels of consciousness that just are not helpful. I spent many years counselling, and I still do, war refugees. So it's part of something that I have personally experienced from a counselor's point of view. And one of the things that my kids have asked me from time to time is, how do you deal with being in somebody's grief all day, and somebody's heaviness all day? And I'm going to tell you, without giving you details, that I have heard the most horrific stories. I'm not ignorant to the pain and the suffering of human nature. In fact, I experience some form of suffering in others every single day of my life. Sometimes I have Sundays off. But what I find is different to perhaps what I do, and yes, I've got the training and I've got the experience and all the rest of it, but it's the position that I'm in. It's not a helpless position. I'm in the position where I hold space for people, and I give them the opportunity to express what's going on for them, whatever state of helplessness and powerlessness that they may be in. And I hold space for their healing, which is a very, very powerful position. And you know, I think therein lies a secret. When we're watching people's pain and we're in a sense of hopelessness, and let's just bring it back to our perhaps our home front. When you're watching someone suffering in your life, you know, it could be, you know, a sick parent or a sick loved one. It could be a child struggling at school. It could be many different. Your friend could be going through a terrible divorce. We could be sitting there watching somebody else's pain, and it's very difficult to watch someone else's pain when you're in the pain with them. When you're in the suffering with them, when you're feeling just as hopeless, just as useless, just as powerless as they are. So one of the things that I find is really beneficial is, firstly, just take your power back from everything out there. Absolutely everything. Just, you know, even if you have to sit there and meditate, just pull all your power back. You know, come back to your center, come back to you, you know, feel that place underneath your belly button, the dantian, the center of your universe, the center of you, and center yourself again. You know, come back to that space. You know, what you're seeing out there is a trigger. It's a trigger to something in here. And from that perspective, you have power. You can now start looking at the triggers in your field in life. You can start to look at, what has this brought up for me, you know, on a planetary level. If you know, if I kind of zoom right back and speak about perhaps astrology, and now disclaimer, I'm not an astrologer. I have I dabble and I love to listen about it. However, it's hard to miss the fact that Mars is very dominant in our field. That's why, you know, the world is kind of always on the brink of war. Now, I can't do anything about the wars out there. I cannot do a single thing. I can throw money at it. I can pray for the people. I can, you know, hopefully You know, it might be a protest in the street or something, but very little of what I do there actually scratches the surface. The thing that I can really do is understand that I am part of a collective, and that my energy, my specific level of consciousness adds spice to this soup that we're all in. So my particular state of consciousness, if I'm sitting there hopeless and I'm in fear and I'm worried about, you know, this power that's going to overtake me, honestly, I'm about as useless as, I was going to say tits on a bull, but yeah, I'm totally and utterly impotent. And you know, I have a saying that, you know, if you have a mark on your face, you can't rub it off the mirror. So you have to actually look at yourself. So one of the most powerful perspectives and positions that we could come to actually start to change the frequency of this soup that we're all in is have a look at what it mirrors for you. Now, if it brings up fear, if it brings up fear of, you know, name the fear. A fear that's named is 50% reduced straight away. So what are you afraid of? Is it suffering? You know, when you look at the suffering of others, you know, look back and look at your own suffering. You know, I think a lot of us, particularly when we look at children suffering, well, I can only speak for myself, right? When I look at children suffering, it hits me deep in my heart, and it takes me back to those uncared for inner child within myself, that place where someone should have stood up for me, where a trusted person attacked me, where I felt hopeless, where I felt helpless. And it's only by going inwards and embracing that aspect of myself and nurturing, because also astrologically what's happening at the moment is the divine feminine is awakening. Like, it is huge. The divine feminine has been suppressed for eons, and it's something that it's not, I'm not talking just about the identity of a woman or the role of a woman. I'm not talking about sexuality here. I'm talking about divine energy. And divine energy, the divine feminine energy, is about nurturing. It's about birthing. And we are in a place of birthing a whole new consciousness, a whole new world. And I don't think anyone can really dispute that. The old is gone, it's finished. And this is the chaos that we are seeing in the world at the moment. It's called renovating. So all of this shit has to come up out of the quagmire that's been acceptable and accepted for such a long time, that really cannot be, we can't sustain it anymore if we want to reach new levels of consciousness as a group, as a whole. So as we reawaken the divine feminine within each of us, what we need to do is go back to those places in us that you know, what is it that I'm getting, what in me is getting triggered? Is it the neglected child? Is it the wounded child? Is it the unloved aspects of ourselves? Is it those parts that feel helpless and powerless and and all of those. And what we can do then is we can deeply go within those aspects of ourselves and embrace that person, that little being that, you know, where we may have felt victimized in our own lives, and go back and nurture that part of ourselves and understand that every single pain that we have suffered in our lives shows us our strength, not our weakness. It shows us what we have been able to live through. And I'm going to tell you, we human beings as a race are extremely resilient, at the same time as being vulnerable and fragile and victimized at times as well. So coming back to focus on the strengths of who we are, that, you know, through going through these trials and tribulations in our lives, it also forms and forges our strength too. And by holding space for our own pain and understanding what this outside world is triggering in us, we can add our very own brand of healing to this soup of consciousness, this chaos that's been displayed in front of us in the world in many, many different ways. Now, the other thing is that each of us is going to be called forward to contribute as we regain our power and as we are brought into this new consciousness. It's like something genetically in us ignites. So it's like what we've come here to do, or what we've genetically been embedded with, has an opportunity to switch on. So you think about World War II and the millions and millions of men that weren't dragged to war. They stood in the battlegrounds and they were fierce, and that's genetics. You know, I sometimes ponder on that and think, holy smokes, how does somebody convince that many people to stand in battle? But what happens is that there is something that gets triggered in us. And I remember listening to this guy talking about the big protests that happened in Canberra a while back, and he was saying that, and you know, he was standing up for truth and liberation and freedom and all of those things. And he said he was just a normal guy. He said, I was just doing my job, doing my life, nothing. And he said, and then when this thing came on, he said it was like I just knew what I had to do, and it just switched on. So these are the strengths of our ancestors. These are the embedded blueprints of what we've come here to do at this particular point in time. So this is what's going to be the push in our genetics. This is what's going to be, you know, and part of this whole awakening, if you might call it that, transitioning, transmutation, whatever you want to call it. Part of that is we've already got that inside of us, and something's awakening in us, something's switching on, right? And that switching on is calling us forward into a different a different role, a different place. It's calling us to let go of what no longer serves us. It's calling us to step into the roles that we have chosen to step in relation to our brothers, sisters, humanity, and the roles that we want to contribute to. Hence, I'm sitting here talking to you on a screen. Because it's very strong in me to speak, not just one-on-one, which I've been doing for 30 years, speaking directly to people heart to heart. Now I am compelled, and it's like there is nothing in me that can stop this. It's like it's switching on. So you may sense that within yourself. You might sense that, and like a little, if you've ever seen a giraffe, when they're born, it's like these wobbly little legs or long legs. And, we might wobble in whilst we start to get our grounding and our balance. But we're wobbling into something that we are being led into by our genetics, by our design, and by the collective. Existence calls us forward. We answered the call. Before we came here on this planet, we answered the call of existence. Existence said, hey, I need your specific skill set, your specific frequency, your specific energy, and this is what I need it for. Do you want to come and play? And I know I said yeah hell yeah, because otherwise I wouldn't be here. And I think we've all done that on some level, even though some of us feel like we've come in kicking and screaming. And I'll often joke that I took the wrong turn at a particular star. I should have gone left instead of right, and here I am. But look, while I'm here, I might as well make the most of it. And isn't it better to give our all to everything than to sit back and, in God's waiting room, waiting for life to be over and hiding under a blanket somewhere and hoping to God that it's all finished soon, and yet at the same time fearing the end of it? It's like that paralysis that we can experience in life. So when you get triggered by this outside world, contemplate, what's this touching in me? What's this accessing in me? Even if it's annoyance, like if you're annoyed at other people, and I'll scroll through social media, and I will look at some of the comments, and it's like, don't worry about a war out overseas. There's a war happening in people's comments. It's one opinion is held greater than somebody else's, So these are all of the things to address in us. If we can't heal the conflict in us, we will see it constantly replayed in the outside world. And this is our task. This is our mission. And when you do it lovingly, and when you do it and embrace the heart with it, and even if it's difficult, because I don't know about you, but the moon has been very, very challenging for me, this particular, lunar eclipse and solar eclipse. I don't know what it's been like for you, but for me, this lunar eclipse and supermoon and this last, however long it's been, particularly this last month, I think, has been particularly tumultuous and challenging for me personally. And I'm just going to move this smoke over here. It's been particularly challenging because I've felt all of this rumbling going inside, and the different wounds in the unconscious are starting to surface. So that's another thing that you can do, is meditate. And if you don't know how to meditate, get online, have a look on YouTube. Have a look at the kind of meditations that you're being drawn to. Breathing is another, just doing some breath work, and it's just simply doing 6 breaths in through the nose and 6 breaths out through the nose, and just doing that until you feel your parasympathetic nervous system switching back on. That can help. That can certainly start to shift some of the unconscious debris back up. That's the meditations. Just simply feeling into the body is a great meditation. Just being still and just feeling the feelings, where do you feel this tension? And where does that tension belong? Are you feeling the tension in your chest, in your shoulders, in your knees, and what does it feel like? Investigate it. What does it feel like, this tension? And one of the techniques I love is just putting my hand wherever the tension is, and just asking, what's the belief under this? And it'll come up. We always know, we think the subconscious is inaccessible to us, but it's not. It's right there. And it's just that it's subconscious. It's like when you put your undies on in the morning. When you focus on them, you got them on, but the mind just, puts them into the subconscious so that you can carry on with the day and focus on other things. So that's a great meditation to work out what's going on in the body, because the body is your unconscious mind, and you'll start to understand what's in the unconscious and investigate it, pull it apart, get to know this amazing vehicle that you're in. If you go to my website, I've got free programs on there. I've got a 14-day infinite manifestation program that takes you through techniques. I'll be putting more meditations up as well over the next month or so, and blog posts, and certainly doing more of these video assistance to help to raise or help people understand and gain awareness around this incredible vehicle that we live in. Because for me, and this is what I'm always called to do, we're all called to do different things, just like I mentioned before. But in these times of crisis, in these times of disruption, I go inwards, because there's nothing I can do in the outside world. If I can do it, like if it is, like my grandson was sick last week, and he's, the kids are going through a lot at the moment too, bless their hearts. And, he's 4 and he's getting new teeth, and or it's starting to change in there, and it's bringing up stuff for him. So that I can help in the outside world, because I have those skill sets. However, if you can't help in the outside world, if you can't lend something useful and positive to the outside world, then go within, go into your own disharmony, go into your own uncomfortableness around being powerless, go into your uncomfortableness around feeling victimized. Let it take you back to where it belongs. Let it take you back to where the origins of it are. And sometimes when we investigate enough, it's not even ours. I was doing a meditation the other day, and I felt this feeling in my chest of hopelessness, like things are never going to change. And it felt almost like a sticker over the top of my chest. And I thought, okay, where does this belong? And it was a very clear feeling that it wasn't mine. It didn't belong to an aspect of me. It didn't belong to a younger self. It belonged to my mother. But it wasn't hers either. It was her lesson. It was what she taught me, that, sometimes you've just got to get on with it because nothing really changes, and you've just got to suck it up and very, very, very disempowering pattern. Just going to have a sip of tea. So that disempowering pattern, it's simple. I just pulled it off. I just thought, oh gosh, and it was like a little thin piece of alfoil or something, and it was just, I could just rip it off my chest. And the feeling of freedom after that was immense, and things didn't look so hopeless anymore. So that's the power of meditation. That's the power of going inwards and really investigating these feelings. And particularly at this time, there is chaos, but we don't even know where the chaos is, because most of us, if I look at my world and what's around me, it's peaceful. There's nothing going on. I mean, there's nothing in the backyard. I've got a cat that gets a little bit, she wants her own way, and she likes to, get me to be her servant. That's it. That's everything that's going on in my physical reality. But what's happening internally is a whole other story. And if we start to recognize that our inner world is not reflecting our outer world in some way, then we understand that there are aspects of ourselves that are in conflict. And then when you hear about conflict in the outside world, when you hear about warring happening and powerlessness, it kind of taps into that, and we believe that it's imminent, it's going to happen. And the reality is there's nothing here. There's nothing that's happening. Not for a lot of us anyway. For some of us, yeah, and that's our cards that we have been dealt. They're the things that we have to work through. And we've all been in places in our lives where we've been incredibly challenged, and there truly has been things going on in the outside world. But I would also suggest that a lot of it, was amplified by the mind rather than the truth of what was going on in the outside world. So yes, they're the things that I practice: meditation, breath work, grounding. Go to Mother Nature. This is the raising of the divine feminine. We're starting to understand how important the earth is to us. We can't live without the earth. We're not we're not going to survive as a species if we destroy Mother Earth because some fat asshole wants to get rich, you know. You know, and it's just them. You know, it's only one or two people. It's not for the collective. It's got, you know, that kind of thinking is going. It's got to go, because as we're approaching more crisis, we're all getting activated. We're all being activated to our deeper sense of survival of the species. So when you think about it, you know, it's only a handful of people that are truly ruining it for the rest, really. And what I also like to focus on, and what I see a lot of as well, that is really important to understand, is there is so much good in this world. There is so much innovation happening. There is so many new products. There are so many new incredible things and inventions that are coming through that are really revolutionizing a lot for us. They're the things that we need to be looking at to feel inspired, to feel uplifted, to feel like there is hope in the world, because there is an enormous amount of hope. So get perspective, go back and go, okay, why am I upset? What do I need to look at within myself? Can I assist it in the outside world? If I can't assist it in the outside world, what can I do internally? Can I pray? Can I send good messages? How can I get my vibration up so that I can lend a hand to the collective? Because me lying in the fetal position on the floor and rocking and worrying that some big bag boogeyman is going to come and get me, that doesn't work. That doesn't work for anyone, and it doesn't help anybody. So yeah, let the light come in. Get rid of, or not get rid of, but nurture and really heal those parts of ourselves that have been neglected, that have been cast aside, that no longer can be here, or that don't have center stage at this time in your life. So I hope this helps someone. And if there's anything in particular you want to hear about, that you want me to extrapolate, let me know. Drop me a line, write it in the comments. I'm really happy to hear what people really want to discuss. I'm so used to speaking to people in a clinic situation where I get that instant feedback so that I can direct my conversation. This is a new way of being for me. So if I hear from people around what is really going on for them, then I can speak to that and lend my perspective or some experience that I've had, or just a story, really. We're all storytellers. So have a fabulous day, and remember to nurture yourself. Remember to honor your own divine feminine, whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. It's not a gender thing. It's an energy thing. So we are all birthing this new world, and it's time to listen within and really start to understand the messages that are coming from within, and then also look at how we contract in the face of our true power, how we contract in the face of who we really are. And then that becomes an exciting journey. It's very, very exciting to clear those spaces. And yeah, and I'm here. So yeah, drop me a line. Bless and have a fabulous day, and I will see you next time.